But God, they could have hit something sweeter. This is gonna be a rough day for Conor McGregor. I'm a little bit
I'm gonna
worried
go
about
towards Max Holloway, and I'm leaning towards Max Holloway. But I don't know if like McGregor's gonna at least have 10 pounds on him, dude. He has put on a lot of
Great
size.
fighter, legend. A legend, a guy who's active, a guy who's getting older, obviously in Holloway, Max Holloway, but a guy who's a great striker, a guy who, has been active, and to come out of mothballs, out of retirement.
Again, I think he knocks him
With
out.
UFC 329 now just around the corner, anticipation continues to build for Conor McGregor's long-awaited return against Max Holloway. As fight night approaches, fighters and analysts across the MMA world are offering their final predictions, with opinions split over whether McGregor's power can overcome Holloway's activity and relentless pace.
Fight. It's kind of hard to say who I think. I would have to go with Max having that edge because he's been more active. Conor hasn't been active. They're fighting at 170, so that does give Conor an edge because he's fought at 170 before, and Conor hasn't. I mean, and Max hasn't. But just we're gonna have to see.
Adding another perspective, John Jones praises Conor McGregor for choosing to return despite no longer having any financial reason to compete. Jones believes the comeback reflects McGregor's genuine love for competition and credits him with changing the sport by proving fighters can become successful entrepreneurs long after establishing themselves in.
McGregor, what do you make of his comeback?
Conor doesn't need to fight. He has everything. And I respect the fact that he's coming back to fight so much because it shows that he's a fighter in his heart. Me, I got to a certain level and I decided to walk away. Conor, he's back, and it just shows how much he loves the sport. It shows that he's still that fighter despite having so much success. I'm rooting for him. I'm proud of him, and I think he's just great, man. The businessman that he's been for our sport. He teaches fighters that we can be more than just fighters. We could take our brand and do something special with it, which he did with Paw Patrol whiskey and everything. Proud of Conor. I'm a massive fan. I think I will be for the rest of my life. He has had a lot of struggles, ups and downs, just like I have, but he always gets back on his feet, which is a huge example to so many out there.
Is Conor McGregor, what do you make of his comeback? Conor doesn't need to fight, he has everything. And I respect the fact that he's coming back to fight so much because it shows that he's a fighter in his heart. You know me, I got to a certain level and I decided to walk away. Conor, he's back, and it just shows how much he loves the sport. It shows that he's still that fighter despite having so much success. I'm rooting for him, I'm proud of him, and I think he's just great, man. The businessman that he's been for our sport, He teaches fighters that we can be more than just fighters, We could take our brand and do something special with it. Which he did with prop whiskey and everything. Proud of Conor, I'm a massive fan. I think I will be for the rest of my life. He has had a lot of struggles, ups and downs, just like I have. But he always gets back on his feet, which is a huge example to so many out there. So, continuing the discussion, Michael Bisping applauds McGregor for accepting such a dangerous comeback fight after years away from competition. Breaking down the matchups, Bisping believes Holloway holds clear advantages in cardio, pace, and striking volume, while McGregor remains the more dangerous one-shot finisher, especially during the opening rounds, creating a classic battle between pressure and knockout power. Respect the a-circumflex out of him for coming back at 38 years old with apparently hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank account and fighting Max Holloway that's been so active and the fight happening at 170 pounds. I do think that gives Conor a little bit of an advantage there. I think in terms of fluidity, speed, and all the rest of it. And putting combinations together. There's no one in the UFC that does that better than Max Holloway anyway. So of course he has the advantage there. But when it comes to raw one-punch knockout power, of course, you got to give that to McGregor, right? That left hand is phenomenal. Whether it's an uppercut, a straight left, whatever it is, it'll put people to sleep. And certainly at 170 pounds, when McGregor is going to naturally be the bigger guy, he's going to have a big power advantage. But the longer the fight goes, as it starts to get into the championship rounds, Max is probably going to pull away with the stamina and the cardio right. That's probably how it's going to go down if it even gets to there. Meanwhile, Ian Machado Gary backs his fellow Irishman to defeat Max Holloway, believing the lengthy layoff has only increased McGregor's hunger to compete. Although he acknowledges Holloway's elite durability, experience, and non-stop pressure Gary feels competing at 170 pounds, amplifies McGregor's explosive power and gives him the edge if he lands clean. Fighting Irish are called the Fighting Irish for a reason. It's in our blood. It's in our DNA and he can't stop us. You think Conor wins? Absolutely. It's not an easy fight. Max is very good at what he does. He's obviously been in there against the best guys in the world, repeatedly over and over and over again. But whilst Conor's been inactive, the hunger will start to thrive in his mind and in his skull. And at 170 pounds, I think this fight's very, very interesting. I think it's very Conor's going to have the knockout power. Looking deeper into the striking matchup, Stephen Barnhill points to Conor McGregor's elite precision, timing, and knockout ability as weapons that can still change a fight instantly. At the same time, he notes that McGregor no longer throws with the same volume he once did, while Holloway continues to overwhelm opponents through constant pressure, relentless combinations and non-stop output. Conor is got laser accuracy. Why he's got tremendous timing and power. He also was in the beginning part of his career landing like almost 3 significant shots per minute more than his opponents. Now that has come down significantly in his last few fights to where it's just I think it's a little bit more than even. He's still got the edge but not nearly almost 3 strikes per minute. And then he's coming up against an absolute output workhorse in Max Holloway, who's landed more significant strikes than anybody in the history of the organization. Who's just a guy who doesn't take you out with one shot like Conor does. He beats you down with thousands of shots, right? It's like death by 1,000 cuts with Max bless Holloway. Expanding on that idea, Nick Barnhill believes the biggest question surrounding this fight is which version of Conor McGregor will actually step into the octagon after such a lengthy absence. He explains that McGregor has evolved considerably throughout his career, whereas Holloway has steadily refined his already proven style. Barnhill also expects Holloway to be fully prepared for McGregor's trademark fast starts, knowing the opening rounds are traditionally where the Irishman is at his most dangerous. Conor McGregor is a unique guy because we haven't seen him in all this time, and his style has evolved as he, started in the UFC, got to the belts and then made his first return, which was a very boxing-heavy style. So we don't know exactly who's going to come into the cage and compete against Max Holloway. Now Max's style has gotten a lot better and evolved, but it hasn't changed as drastically as Conor. So I'm really interested to see how both men, have been preparing for one another. Max Holloway understands that Conor's a very good starter. There's one thing we know is he's never been a late round guy. He's always a great starter. First round, second round, it usually goes Conor's way. Continuing his analysis, Barnhill stresses that McGregor remains one of the most dangerous punchers in MMA regardless of the layoff. He believes McGregor's size, southpaw stance, pinpoint accuracy, and fight-ending power could present serious problems for Holloway if he is able to establish control early, making this one of the most intriguing stylistic matchups of the year. Conor McGregor, even after all these years off, is probably more of a power puncher than Charles Oliveira. So if he's able to utilize that bigger frame, 5 years off is bad for ring rust and things like that. But if he's strong and more physically commanding than a Max Holloway, and we saw Max Holloway have issues with the power of even a 140-155, and Charles Oliveira, I would assume that he might have some trouble with the power of Conor McGregor. Also, like you said, the laser pinpoint accuracy that he punches with very high level. So I want to see how this fight plays out stylistically. Also, a thing that sticks out to me is Conor McGregor, we all know, is a southpaw, and he's very good at fighting southpaw. On the other hand, Curtis Blades confidently backs Max Holloway to knock out Conor McGregor. Blades questions whether McGregor still possesses the same hunger, discipline, and dedication that fueled his championship run, believing Holloway enters this fight as the more focused, motivated, and fully prepared competitor. All the way again, I think he knocks him out. I don't think anyone can really argue that McGregor's hungry like he used to be. Is he hungry enough to be getting in the gym and doing the things he has to do? Doing that hour bag work, doing those hours of drilling. I don't know, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I believe Holloway's hungrier. I believe he's more locked in and he's gonna win. Jorge Masvidal is even more decisive, giving Conor McGregor very little chance against Max Holloway. He argues Holloway's activity, durability, and current form make him the clear favorite, believing the Irishman will struggle to overcome 5 years away against an opponent who has remained among the elite. If he's living that lifestyle, I don't give him a chance against Max, cause Max does live that lifestyle. You know, we see day in and day out. Max lives that lifestyle, has lived that lifestyle for the 5 years that Conor stepped away. Max only competed against the world's best every time out. There.